In this demonstration, we'll take a look at TurboCourt's eService functionality in depth. In this filing scenario, I'm indicating that I'm filing into an existing case, and I provided the case number. So I'll click Next, and when I click Next again, I can see the case information that was pulled from the court's case management system based on that case number. Now, I've already filled out the rest of this information, but for example, we can take a look and see that I'm filing into a civil case. I'll jump ahead to Action Information, and this is where I indicate what lead documents I need to file. In this situation, I'm filing an affidavit, other affidavit. And I'm indicating that no other lead documents need to be filed at this time other than that other affidavit. So I'm good to go. I'll click Next through the final review. TurboCourt will do its typical analysis, determining any fees and so forth. And as I look here, I can see the required documents, the affidavit, other affidavit that I indicated I'll be filing. I've gone ahead and already attached that, along with the required certificate of service that needs to accompany it. Now when I click Next, we get to the eService list screen, and what you'll notice is that there are already two recipients' names and email addresses as part of the eService list. So where did those come from? Well, in this particular situation, somebody else, or perhaps myself, within my organization has already filed on this particular case and has already done eService to these two people. And so it automatically pre-populates them as being additional eService recipients for these subsequent filings, for these additional filings. Now I can remove either one of them if I'd like by simply clicking the Remove link. I can also update their email address and so forth. And you'll also notice that the checkbox that says all recipients listed above have consented in writing to eService is already pre-checked, because again, these folks got pre-populated because they have already been eServed. Now I may want to add some additional people. There's a number of different ways we can do that. One is I can look at the eService address book from my organization. This will give me access to all of the folks within my organization who have ever been eServed through TurboCourt. Now I can search by a name or an email address, or if I leave those blank and simply click search, it will show me everybody. And so here's Anna and Stephen that I already saw, but here's Diana, and yes, I do in fact want to add her to this particular filing. So I'll click Add Selected, and she appears. I have the option of adding a role or comments. My colleague. We can also add recipients manually by simply typing in their name and their email address. And again, I can choose to enter a role, comment, or leave that blank. Now, one other way to manage your eService recipients for this particular filing is to use the View Synchronize with Case eService list. So let's take a quick look at that. This will show any email recipient for eService for this particular case number that had previously been set up by somebody within my organization on this case. So we've already seen that Anna and Stephen were in our list when we first came to this filing. However, let's say I prepared the filing and actually did not electronically deliver it right away. We had some other things to work on, perhaps we wanted to add some other documents, and I come back to it several days later. Well, it's possible that somebody else in my firm, for example, may have done some additional filings on this case and added other eService recipients in the meantime. So when I come back to my filing and I see these four people in my list, it's possible that somebody else from my firm may have already sent other folks filings on this particular case. And so when I click View Synchronize, it will show everybody that has already been eServed on this case, and if in fact there are new folks there, I can simply click Add and they'll be added. Now of course there were no new email addresses, so they were not added, but we do go ahead and reorder it alphabetically. Now, one other thing to take note of is that if I were to, for example, either on purpose or by mistake, put in the same email address and click Next, it will indicate that we have a duplicate email and it will only allow me to send it to one unique email. So I'll go ahead and correct that. Alright, so I'm ready to go. Again, checkbox, all recipients listed above have consented in writing to eService. I click Next. I go through the remaining steps for electronically filing my documents. When I click e-file, it'll take me to our pseudo payment provider in this demonstration, so I don't actually pay the money. I click Pay Now, and sure enough, I now have a newly delivered form set. And if I look at the eService tab, I can see all of the folks that are listed as eService recipients, the date and time that they were sent, and the status of the eService. In this case, none of them have actually opened and looked at those documents. You'll notice also that I can continue to add eService recipients even after I've filed. So if for some reason I've left somebody out, I can simply add them, indicate that they've also agreed to eService, and send those out. I can also resend to anybody I'd like. So if a couple of days or a week have gone by and I see that it's still pending, maybe they didn't see the email, I want them to get a new email, so I can go ahead and select that and resend the eService email to them. Now let's take a look at what happens now that eService has occurred. Each recipient will receive an email regarding eService notification, and it will indicate the case number, the case name, the TurboCourt form set number, and then provide them with a link to actually access the documents. And so in this situation, the documents themselves are not within the email, but rather within a secure server where I have to log in to access those documents, and this is a way for both the court as well as the filer to see if in fact this person has received these documents. So by clicking on this link, it will open up TurboCourt, and in this situation the eService recipient was Stephen Kimmelman, and he wasn't currently on TurboCourt when he clicked on the link from that email, so it will go ahead and open up TurboCourt and ask him to log in. Now if he's not already a registered user at TurboCourt, he can very quickly register by simply providing a name and email address. But he happens to already be a user of TurboCourt, so he can log in. It remembers the link and the form set, and sure enough, there is the other affidavit. So he can go ahead and click on the view links to look at the affidavit, the certificate of service, and basically those are the documents that were e-served to him. Now if we log out and then log back in as the filer can now see that one of those 4 recipients actually looked at the e-served documents. So let's go ahead and do that. So we'll log back in this time as the filer, and there is our most recently delivered form set showing the affidavit that this filer sent. Let's take a look at that eService tab. So here our 4 recipients are, and you'll notice that for this particular person the status is accepted. And you'll also notice that the checkbox next to this person's name and email address is no longer there because there's no need to resend the eService email to him. Where these others, where they're still pending, as I said, they may have not looked at that email yet, and so I could, if I wanted to, resend it to them. And if we want to look at the history for this particular recipient who has accepted eService, we click on the History tab and we can see the date and time that they actually viewed the documents. So click back to the eService list, and so that is some of the functionality associated with TurboCourt's eService. So now let's take a look at it more from the recipient side, as well as managing multiple filings that I may have served documents on. So first thing that I'm going to do is go back home to the TurboCourt home page, and I am both a filer of certain forms. I'm also perhaps an attorney on other cases. So a couple of things you'll notice on the home screen as I'm logged in here. First, you'll see that it shows that I have 2 new eService requests as a recipient of eService. I can also see that here where it says served on me and there's the number 2. So if I were to click on that, I can see another case where I have been served documents. So it looks like 2 different filings, and I can click view documents, and this is showing finding of facts, and of course I can view that document. And now it's showing me only 1 new eService request that I haven't taken a look at. So that's as the recipient. Now as the filer, I can go and click on check eService status here on the left hand side, and I can search for filings based on a variety of criteria: the case number, the case name, the recipients, and so forth. If I have a client number or client name that we reference, I could do it based on that. I could say show only filings where pending eService requests are still out there, but I'll just leave everything blank and click list and see what shows up. And so, okay, so we've got 3 separate filings, 2 cases. One is Todd Smith versus Sally Jones, another is Debbie Smith versus Renee Orlandi. And I can take a look at any of these. The 27398 was the one we were just looking at, so I'll skip over that one. But here's a different case, and I can see 2 recipients, and neither one has looked at their documents yet. And if I go back, and here's a different filing on that same Todd Smith case, and once again I can see that, okay, 1 person has accepted and 1 person is pending. So from the home screen, this is where you can check on both filings that you as a filer have sent out and done eService for, and those where you are the recipient of eService. And one last thing, let's say that I am a registered TurboCourt user, but that I have provided a different email address to receive eService. So I receive an eService notification, but it's to an email address that's different from the one I used to register and log in with TurboCourt. When I click on the link for eService, TurboCourt recognizes that I'm a registered user logged in, but I'm using a different email address. And it's asking for eService purposes to provide the email address where I received the eService notification. And when I type in that other email address, it will now associate that email address with my TurboCourt user account for eService receipt, and it will only ask me to do this once. So that's another way for people to manage multiple email addresses as they use TurboCourt. So there you go.